It was a very dark day when Mystery Science Theater 3000 ended its Sci-Fi Channel run. An understatement to call it the end of an era. I'm sure the crew had hoped to produce more than just 3 seasons there, especially as those 3 seasons, without question, produced some of the greatest episodes in the entire series. That talent had to go somewhere. Now, it didn't happen overnight, and there was an unfortunate false start, but eventually, RiffTrax emerged like a phoenix from the ashes. Far from being a pale imitation of what came before, RiffTrax has produced quite the body of work, much of it quite different from MST3K, but still of tremendous quality. But despite this quality, I can't help but think that RiffTrax hasn't quite reached the wider audience MST3K did. The RiffTrax channel on YouTube, despite having quite a few free movie and short riffs, only has a mere 120,000 subscribers. Or, in the metric system, about 1 Goth Gamer Nation. Solid by YouTube standards, of course, but given the sheer quantity of tracks they've riffed and how long they've been at it, this seems on the low side. I think some of this comes down to it not being entirely clear where one can find RiffTrax's best works across all the platforms they're on. For the interested, I did an analysis on what full movies RiffTrax has freely available outside of the RiffTrax website, link in the description. On that note, one of my goals for this video is to help people discover the sublime majesty on display in the RiffTrax library. The unmissable riffs and surrounding references I'm calling the RiffTrax Core Canon. Before you ask, no, this is definitely not sponsored by them. Channels my size don't really get those kinds of offers, and I imagine that would take the fun out of it anyway, so I didn't ask. Now, in addition to going through the legendary riffs themselves, I'm also going to discuss a variety of related topics surrounding them as we go. I promise you, this is going to be a lot more than merely a best of list. Let's start with what's accessible here on YouTube and work our way deeper from there. As mentioned, there's a lot of full riffs on the RiffTrax channel. You'd be forgiven for thinking otherwise though, as the preview on the channel page makes it seem like there's only 12. But no, if you click through, there's actually 42 on the playlist, at time of writing. And I don't mind telling you, there's some heavy hitters on this playlist. Watching RiffTrax on YouTube has come a long way since the days of nigh endless random best-of compilations. Now, this might be a somewhat controversial recommendation, but of the set of freely available movie riffs, I would start with Roller Gator. Roller Gator is, without question, one of the worst things ever produced by human beings. It's munchy without the charm or budget.
Well, I'm a mean motor gator, a rock and roller skater. Try to catch me now, I'll kick your butt later.
All right, if he raps a 3rd time, this movie qualifies as a felony.
An assault on the eyes and ears. A painfully generic acoustic guitar track perpetually infests the soundscape.
Yeah, maybe something that'll help us out.
Give me the tools I need to locate and destroy Guitar Guy.
Roller Gator is pure brain rot. Yet it is from this wretched crucible that Mike, Kevin, and Bill produced a gleaming jewel of a riff. From very early on in the work, RiffTrax's style of riffing distinguishes itself.
I'm hiding, that's what I'm doing.
I don't have to the puppet, do I?
Not to put too fine a point on it, but I don't think they could have gotten away with this riff in MST3K. Not every riff is this shock jock, of course.
Baba Booey.
But they know exactly how far to take it. Although, I'm not quite sure I would agree with the RiffTrax catalog's classification of Roller Gator as family-friendly. Though, to be fair, I don't think the movie is anyone-friendly when it comes down to it.
Yeah, see? I'm the top gator around here, see? It's gonna go my way, see? I got the biggest tail around here and I say what goes on, see? See? Yeah,
And that's a pretty good impression of a terrible Edward G. Robinson impression.
Something else that quickly becomes apparent in the Roller Gator riff is that RiffTrax is capital O online.
I'm getting a black eye just looking at you.
Oh, better title here would have been Gamer Gator.
RiffTrax more than successfully made the jump from classic geek culture to online geek culture. This is evident in a great many other riffs too.
I came here to see Gamera, that's all.
Kid has definitely drawn pictures of Gamera pregnant with Sonic's baby.
I can't help but wonder about the chain of events that led to them gaining this acumen for extremely online humor, but I'm definitely here for it. Of course, no discussion of RiffTrax canon would be complete without discussing the works of one James Nguyen, no relation to Natalie Nguyen, specifically Birdemic. As the main hosts themselves are quick to point out, Birdemic represents an inflection point for RiffTrax.
Birdemic. We're going to do Birdemic. I think Birdemic is the logical succession to Manos.
Well, I think it's an important point that we are ready to move on to the new generation of worst movies ever.
Birdemic, if you're not familiar, is a deeply misguided attempt to blend Hitchcock's The Birds with global warming discourse. It is not particularly adept at either.
Man, that was a good movie, an inconvenient truth.
Yep, that's what we saw.
Birdemic's riff is RiffTrax core canon. One could probably do a standalone video on just Birdemic lore alone. But in the interests of keeping things moving, here's a lightning round of riffs that show up in RiffTrax's later works and also roost rent-free in my head. The endless parking scenes.
All right, another red-hot parking scene. Wait, don't cut away. How will we know where they parked?
Their raw contempt for the protagonist and his lack of elocution.
How could she be late? I told her to meet me at good Vietnamese restaurant.
I'm fortunate to live within walking distance of a good Vietnamese restaurant. Every single time I walk through the doors, I can't help but think of this moment. There's also, of course, soul pulls.
That's solar nano-based solar panels.
Excuse me, what are solar panels?
Yes, Mass Solar owns the patent to this technology.
And what are you calling them again?
Solar panels.
I'm not.
Solar panels.
What are you?
Solar panels.
Perhaps if you slowed down.
Slow down solar panels?
An underrated aspect of the movie is its usage of comically round large numbers.
Wow, first my million, now this for a billion? Big hand for incredibly round numbers.
And finally,
Many have died from starvation due to the difficulty of finding enough food, such as seals.
Polar bears eat things such as seals? I think I might be such as seals. I better get the hell out of here.
I'm confident there are many more Birdemic riffs that show up later, but those are the ones that stand out the most to me. RiffTrax truly took no prisoners with this one. Some might say this is punching down, but come on, really? There are limits to the grace one should extend these kinds of projects, and for my money, that grace runs out at about 1 minute and 30 seconds in when they painfully loop the intro theme. Birdemic is a wonderful riff, but better yet is that Birdemic is just the tip of the Windberg. There's a wider James Nguyen cinematic universe out there, and the first Birdemic is arguably one of his better works. Yes, I said the first Birdemic. There's no less than 3 of them. Though RiffTrax has only riffed the first one, despite the clamor for the sequels, perhaps so as not to encourage him to make more. But they have riffed his earliest work, and we'll come back to that one later, believe me. Instead, let us turn our attention to another free full movie riff, a riff that demonstrates some important differences between RiffTrax and MST3K. Manos, The Hands of Fate. Yes, Manos, famous for its MST3K episode, a definitive Joel episode for a lot of people. One might think it being covered decades prior would preclude the need for it to be re-riffed, but this could not be further from the truth. RiffTrax's version is quite different from the MST3K episode. For one thing, the free version of the riff is the live version, which, props to them for successfully weaving the riffs in with the dialogue in a live setting. I don't think people appreciate how challenging that must be. These live events have quite a different texture from the classic MST3K episodes, but even beyond that, there's surprisingly little overlap in the jokes. Now, I know what you're thinking hearing that. Of course there's little overlap. The MST3K episode was recorded in the late Cretaceous period, 20 years prior to this live show. But even accounting for the time differential, the jokes are conceptually different. From the very beginning, you can tell they clearly found some new comedic angles.
Ah yes, Manos, the most famous quote by the guy named The Hands of Fate.
You can also see evidence of the greater RiffTrax canon taking shape.
See you in October for Birdemic! Thank you very much, Nashville! Thank you,
Solar
America, we love you!
A good bit of classic 2010s era movie humor as well.
Edward Cullen and Bella Swan's white trash phase.
Eddie, when the hell are you gonna change me into one of them vampires?
I told you I'd do it after I fix the truck, baby. Now get off my damn back.
I think it's to their credit here that the joke wasn't merely a direct reference to a thing, but a uniquely absurd twist on it, something you can see in a lot of RiffTrax work. Taken all together, I think the live Manos riff firmly puts to rest the idea that anything MST3K touched, RiffTrax must avoid. If anything, the added context of this having been an MST3K episode adds yet more comedic potential. Especially for Kevin, the RiffTrax member who was on hand for both versions.
I can't make it.
Right, sounds like you during Manos rehearsal, Kevin.
Exactly. And take it, Mike.
Even beyond Manos, there's a lot of jokes in various RiffTrax works that directly reference MST3K episodes.
Nothing happened in the hallway.
There was no werewolf.
Absolutely fascinating.
RiffTrax isn't a direct continuation of MST3K, of course, but it's also not that. If you do a little digging, there's quite a bit of continuity in the larger joke canon.
I know it's too much to ask that he somehow meet Ben Murphy and Jim Stafford.
You mean Lazy Rider and Buffalo Bill?
Right, and that they all take on the elusive Robert Denby together, but
wow.
Guys, I mean, I can dream, can't I?
Yeah. Mike, you're some gal.
The result of this is that if you liked sci-fi era MST3K and haven't checked out RiffTrax at all yet, I think you'll feel right at home quite quickly. Anyhow, as an added bonus, the live Manos riff is also where many first beheld Norman, the down-on-his-luck businessman.
Oh, he's scuffing his genuine dog leather shoes.
A lesser deity of the RiffTrax pantheon, to be sure, but a strangely compelling one. Against all odds, there are 4 deeply cursed Norman shorts, and RiffTrax riffed all of them. I can only imagine how intensely uncomfortable these would be to watch unriffed. Fortunately, as ever, the RiffTrax crew knows exactly how to make the most out of this source material.
Catchphrase!
Yeah!
Setting aside Manos, there's a few festive feature-length riffs on YouTube I should quickly call attention to. To start, I'm pretty sure this horrid visage is what we see when we die, but if you don't want to wait that long, consider Santa Claus and the Ice Cream Bunny. Believe it or not, this was made to advertise a failing theme park, Pirates World. I wonder if Defunctland would ever do a video on it. Ratcheting up the Christmas-themed brain rot, I have to mention Wizzo the Clown. While I don't think Wizzo has been referenced all that much in other RiffTrax works, I think it stands on its own as a bizarrely unappealing experience not to be missed.
Not a creature was stirring, not even an elephant. Elephant! Boy, you think it isn't still out there today? You're crazy. It is coming down.
Guys?
Yeah.
What have we done?
I don't know, Mike. I don't know.
It is often said that art is a reflection of the society that created it, and here I think they captured a striking slice of low-budget Midwestern television. Rounding out this less-than-holy holiday trinity, it's worth noting that it is through the magic of RiffTrax that the Star Wars holiday special becomes bearable. Mostly.
Kids Park garbage disposal.
The whole thing is freely available on their channel, though it's unlisted, so you have to use the full Riff playlist to find it. Thankfully, Lucas never quite got around to the sledgehammering he promised it. Now, in addition to all these movie riffs, there's a sizable playlist of shorts. There's the venerable Shake Hands with Danger short, whose jaunty tune you may have heard more than a few times on a certain podcast.
Shake Hands with Danger.
The Shake Hands with Danger party mix.
Shake Hands with Danger.
Exchange terse emails with perilousness.
But there's also Setting Up a Room. It's a short, but Lord Almighty does it not feel like one.
At this point, we at RiffTrax would like everyone to take a glance at the time remaining counter on your media player. Oh boy.
It's like if After Last Season was trying to be educational. It's one of the most mundane things ever put to film. Fortunately for us, perhaps as a result of this, it might be the most concentrated stream of raw sarcasm RiffTrax ever released.
Water fountain.
Go to hell, complete sentences. We're setting up a room.
Now let's see.
Yes! Yes!
The Cubbies.
The Cubbies, you glorious, insane bitch!
In addition to all these freely accessible movies and shorts, they also occasionally put out streams on YouTube. Sometimes the Mystery Science Theater YouTube channel streams RiffTrax as well. To bottom line it, there are entire MST3K seasons worth of RiffTrax on YouTube now. But so vast is the RiffTrax library that this is just the first delicious layer of the 7-layer bean dip that is RiffTrax. Let's move on to Amazon's offerings. Though before I talk about the best works on Prime Video itself, I want to highlight something that I'd put solid odds on a lot of people not knowing. You see, a while back, Amazon bought Twitch. A consequence of this is that if you have a Prime membership, you can subscribe to a single Twitch channel for free every month, removing all the ads that normally show up when watching the channel. As you may have already surmised, RiffTrax has a 24/7 Twitch stream. This is arguably one of the best ways to enjoy RiffTrax, as the stream pulls randomly from a sizable chunk of the library. It makes for a second monitor experience that's hard to beat. A fun communal experience too, as people add their own riffs in the chat. I'd definitely check it out if you're already on Prime. But let's turn our attention to the riffs available on demand on Prime Video. There's a plethora of them, 98 full movie riffs by my count. And on the list, my eyes are immediately drawn to a certain riff that I'm beyond delighted to introduce you to, if you're not familiar with it already. James Wynn's first work, Julie and Jack.
I'm coming!
A truly terrible love story, focusing on the romance between a microchip salesman and a programmer cagey about her past. There's also a completely out of left field twist that changes the character of the movie completely, but I'll leave that for you to discover as it elevates the riff considerably to go in blind. Now, Julie and Jack may have come out a full 7 years before Birdemic, but in RiffTrax terms, its riff is very much a sequel to Birdemic's.
Oh, I sense a nice 50% discount coming our way.
Oh yeah.
Making the phone calls, telling everyone all about the new Millennium X.
Slipping in a pitch for solar panels on the side. Bark beetles consume the tree within minutes.
Oh, I told you. Oh, Mom, there were so many things I wanted to do. So many places I wanted to go. So many aquatic mammals I wanted to see. Such as seals.
But the riff is far more than just Birdemic callbacks, although I enjoyed those callbacks quite a bit.
Ah, they're touring one of the palaces you get after you play Civilization 3 long enough.
I swear to God, it's like they made that riff just for me. Also, Firaxis, please bring back the palace system in Civ 7, thank you. The contempt the Riffers have for Julie and Jack themselves is palpable.
What's your philosophy then?
Well, let me see.
My philosophy is to see how many Pop-Tarts I can eat in 2 minutes.
If you thought they tore into Rod and Natalie, well, in hindsight, they may have been going easy on them.
Tell me why. Give me a good reason why I should stop caring about the one girl.
On a totally unrelated note, that guy never made another movie.
It's also a riff where the hosts flex their musical ability. RiffTrax makes extensive use of sing-along style riffs in many of their works, but here it may have reached its apex, particularly in the beginning and end credits.
Not you, Jack, 'cause you suck.
All in all, I cannot stress this enough. Do not sleep on the riff of Julie and Jack. But let's move on to a movie about as far from the tone of Julie and Jack as one can get. Samurai Cop, a breathtakingly 80s movie somehow released in 1991. Now, the story of how Samurai Cop came to be is actually a lot more interesting than its plot. Iranian director Amir Shervan immigrated from Iran to Los Angeles after the Iranian Revolution. Now, who was the deposed ruler of Iran? Ooh, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Shah!
Ah, that's right, thank you, Hornet. Anyhow, Amir made a few movies leveraging the talents of one Robert Zadar, whom you may recognize from the MST3K episodes Future War and Soul Taker. You may also recognize this particular scene of Samurai Cop that was occasionally used as the Please Shut Up bumper for certain Alamo Drafthouse screenings for a while.
I want him dead!
I want his head cut off and brought here. I want his head on this piano.
The movie wears its influences on its sleeves, to put it mildly.
Wow, these weapons certainly are lethal.
I hope the bad guys don't steal them.
Me too. Ripped off lethal weapons?
That would be terrible.
And the protagonist guy? Well, they describe him better than I ever could.
He's like if Disney's Tarzan was badly airbrushed onto the side of a van and came to life.
Samurai Cop is definitely not a riff I would watch with the family, but it certainly has its share of moments.
Ooh, a sexy death.
Let's get it on.
To add insult to injury, the hero doesn't even so much as pick up a katana until the last 5 minutes. Shit, the It's Tape YouTube video has about as much katana action as Samurai Cop. If nothing else, this sequence leads to my favorite riff of the whole movie.
Man, what a slugfest. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the lineup they announced for this year's Slugfest. Garden Slug's gonna be there, Northern Tree Slug, Common Keeled Slug's doing a reunion show.
Why don't you put that flyer away?
Setting aside the gift that is Samurai Cop, I want to highlight another interesting continuity from MST3K to RiffTrax. Do you remember Time Chasers? From glorious Rutland, Vermont, made by Redwood Rudios? Well, the guy behind that company, David Giancola, has been quite busy. Time Chasers was merely his first full movie. RiffTrax has riffed no less than 4 of his other works, as well as re-riffing Time Chasers itself in a live version. Of these riffs, Icebreaker is an excellent choice. A refreshingly bizarre movie featuring Bruce Campbell of all people. It's trying its best to do the Die Hard thing, which goes about as well as you'd expect from this grade of movie. Although I will say I was genuinely impressed by some of the pyrotechnics. Less so with the Foley, though I enjoy that they used a little bit of the same explosion sound effect Roller Coaster Tycoon used for crashes.
Oh golly, I hope nobody got hurt.
Amusingly, David Giancola premiered his most recent work, Accelerator, on RiffTrax's Twitch channel, Unriffed, and I'm pretty sure I recall him actually being there in the chat too. Kind of a strange vibe to make fun of a movie in chat with the actual director just right there, but still, quite the moment in RiffTrax history. A far better response to the dynamics of MST3K and RiffTrax than some directors have had, to be sure. Let's talk Tubi, not to be confused with this guy.
Tubi here. Sleep room.
If you're not familiar, Tubi is an ad-supported streaming service. You can even watch things on it without even making an account. There's a bumper crop of riffs on it, the highest number of any of the streaming services by my count. Of the notable riffs, I kinda gotta start with 1965's Fun in Balloon Land. It's like if somebody combined 20 minutes of a deeply uncomfortable elementary school play with bizarrely commentated parade footage.
I salute you, Grenadier Guard.
That's the brand of cheap gin she's drinking.
The Red Letter Media phrase, shooting the rodeo, comes to mind. The balloons themselves are often quite grotesque.
Cowboy, time for I get out of here.
Sorry, but our crippling deformities make it impossible for us to help anyone, even ourselves.
This gives the entire ordeal kind of a nightmarish quality, which the RiffTrax crew lean into quite a bit.
Please ignore my inflamed head wiener.
They also make a lot of hay out of the narrator in the parade segment, who delivers quite a strange performance.
Have you ever read that poem? It's lots of fun.
Sometimes I sleep in the dryer.
Like Roller Gator, Fun in Balloon Land may be an acquired taste, but there's still something bizarrely compelling about it. Another noteworthy riff on Tubi is Attack of the Super Monsters. A very unique riff in that, as best as I can tell, it is one of only 2 times RiffTrax has tackled an anime, which is surprising given all the anime-adjacent jokes they make. Though admittedly, Attack of the Super Monsters is only half anime, roughly speaking. The other half is Japanese model work, the kind you might well remember from a few classic MST3K episodes.
Thomas the Tank Engine is like, what is this cheap bullshit?
To be fair, it is a significant cut above Fugitive Alien at least. That said, it doesn't blend with the animated side particularly well at all, and the animation quality itself, well...
It's the running of the Ernest Borgnine!
Enough said. Now, if you're some kind of weeb, you might recognize that this is a Sentai, like Voltron or Power Rangers or what have you. The heart of the team are the twins, Jim and Jem. They activate their vessel's special powers by merging into a Gemini man, which makes it seem like the woman of the pair is simply subsumed into the man, which is definitely a choice one could write a gender studies thesis on.
The giant drill is truly their bond at its most spiritual.
They are joined by two misshapen side characters and a boss with an interesting mustache. They fight monsters and that's pretty much it. But the quality of the riff itself begs for more anime riffs to exist.
Now we can head over to that TV tower and rescue those people. I love being a hero.
Put the heroics on hold.
Maybe those people deserve to die. You don't know.
Is it your Gemini?
I'm sure it's hard to secure the rights to these kind of things, given Japanese copyright law and all, but man, what I wouldn't give for them the riff Odin Photon Sailor Starlight.
Jeez.
I should also quickly mention that Tubi has the Santa Claus and Santa Claus Conquers the Martians live shows on tap. Like with Manos, the RiffTrax live versions of these are worthy new takes that find fresh angles on two truly classic nonsense Christmas movies. Pluto TV, similar to Tubi, is another free ad-supported streaming service. It even has a dedicated RiffTrax stream, but ads hamper it a great deal, and unlike on Twitch, there's no way to spend money to remove them. It's also kind of a jank platform in general. That said, this is less of a problem in the on-demand section, which is where some real quality is hiding. Meet Rats, Night of Terror, a post-apocalyptic Italian horror movie taking place in a combination Wild West saloon / futuristic survival bunker. I had the pleasure of being introduced to Rats at a local bad movie meetup group back in the day, and I was overjoyed to discover it had been riffed. Though even without the riffs, I maintain it is an eminently watchable good-bad movie. The riffs put it over the top though, of course.
She went to the stylist and said, "Give me a Jareth the Goblin King."
Nobody's even mentioned my new scarf.
Am I an airbender?
The real star of Rats is the production design. From the main guy being armed with what you get if you order the Wish.com version of the Exceltra from Warframe, to the many questionable scenes of Rats.
Yeah, I'm working on a movie these days. My job? Oh, I toss buckets of rodents at the actors.
To whatever the fuck is going on here.
James Wen waves his coat hanger as a sign of respect.
It's beautiful.
Oh, man.
Every scene begs the questions of its conception. The whole thing is a hilarious mess, with even the dub somehow being less credible than Attack of the Super Monsters.
Pity I was getting real hungry.
He talks in the third person, just like his intellectual equal, Elmo.
It also has quite a striking ending that I won't spoil. Overall, definitely don't miss this one. On a related note, I dearly want somebody to mod this whole scenario into one of the Wasteland or Fallout games. The setup might not work well as a movie, but you just know it would be perfect in that context. Or maybe I should just play A Plague Tale again. Believe it or not, RiffTrax riffed Aladdin. No, not the 1992 animated Disney classic, the 1990 Disney TV movie that does not even have a Wikipedia entry. Bizarrely, it hews closer to the source material, even taking place in China. However, it manages to be more problematic than the 1992 version.
It's like if MC Hammer was a racist cat toy.
It's honestly kind of surprising the animated movie wasn't cancelled after this dropped. The effects are a total farce, featuring some of the most impressively dated CG I've ever seen.
Well, the special effects couldn't have been much more than free.
Interestingly, the technical side of the riff is a little off too. Notably, this riff seems to have been recorded during the 2020 lockdown, so the audio quality suffers a bit from them not being in their studio. But it's still a solid riff.
Fatima, the dancing doll!
That's what I call my waifu pillow.
Pluto TV also has Stone Cold. Stone Cold is a lot like that one episode of True Detective where Rust infiltrates a biker gang, only our lead is about as far as one can possibly get from Rust Cold.
That's what it would look like if 1985 and 1987 had an inbred baby.
Honestly, the movie itself isn't terrible. It's 80s schlock released in the early 90s with some actual money behind it, but there are definitely some choices made.
I say no way. This is either going to be the biggest pork chop I ever ate.
Is that good,
or my bulldozer.
Wait, is that good?
As you might expect from this kind of movie, it has a lot of boobs and violence, so I wouldn't watch it with the family, but like Samurai Cop, it's worth watching.
The day's not over yet, man.
I got some inside sources telling me the sun is still up.
Now, I'm lumping Plex and Roku together here because they both have small RiffTrax libraries relative to the other streaming services, and they both contain a very special riff that I know has a place in the core RiffTrax canon. Behold, a talking cat? Emphasis on the punctuation.
I think more movie titles could use interrobangs.
On the waterfront? The thin blue line?
The assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford?
A talking cat is without question completely deranged.
So you decided to come back, huh?
I had to. You need my help, and not just in the kitchen.
Also in the bedroom.
You burn
Sex cat at your service.
I'd tell you what the plot is, but there isn't any. It's a profoundly fake movie. The kind you'd find at the very, very bottom of the bargain bin, if they ever pressed this into physical media.
I am so lame.
I'll say, you look at him and you think brony jar.
Every time the cat quote-unquote talks, it's quite the treat.
Duffy?
You should take a walk in the woods,
What's going on here?
then have a talk in the woods.
Sounds like a mob threat from a cat whose mouth is a butthole drawn in MS Paint. What's the big deal?
The riff of a talking cat is also something of a family photo of RiffTrax references.
So a director looked at Roller Gator and thought, it's good, but it needs more cats.
We solved the websites, the interface.
Some idiots named NCT Software bought it.
Guys, I'm starting to wonder, were we too harsh on the ice cream bunny?
They really brought out the big guns for this caliber of movie. Tangentially, A Talking Cat is also arguably the best episode the Flophouse Bad Movie podcast ever put out. Do not pass up the graven image of a talking cat. But let us finally turn our attention to the riffs that are only available on the RiffTrax website itself. Here you can find the crown jewels of the RiffTrax library. Of note, I want to highlight that the RiffTrax Friends subscription gives you access to the vast majority of the library, everything that's been around for more than 3 years. This is a very cost-effective means of enjoying RiffTrax's many works, though I will say this plan does not include the Just the Jokes riffs of movies or shows where they don't have the distribution rights. This is a sizable category of riffs largely covering many modern movies, and also a few very special outliers. One such outlier is a work that it could be argued is the fulcrum by which RiffTrax turns. A pivotal work whose importance in the canon cannot be overstated. My friends, I'm speaking of The Room. So critical is The Room to RiffTrax, it's all over the receipts and confirmation messaging from the website. The Room was, of course, well known in bad movie circles prior to it first being riffed in 2009, but I would argue that RiffTrax played a significant role in mainstreaming it. RiffTrax re-entered The Room in their 2015 live show series charmingly titled The Crappening. The current version of the riff available on the site is derived from this live show. Interestingly, you can't purchase the original 2009 version of the riff anymore, but given I've heard some of those original riffs were more than a little bit on the problematic side, that may be for the best. Either way, I don't have it. But what I do have is a copy of The Room itself. Yeah, physical media, baby! This is, essentially, the least legally gray way to get a copy to use with the RiffTrax provided audio track. Thanks for the fucking weird underwear insert, by the way, Tommy. So I won't spend a whole lot of time on the room itself because what can even be said at this point that hasn't been said many times before? I will say that it certainly remains peerless in the set of films that are a massive self-report by the director who produced them.
Now note here how the focus gets a little blurry, the director intentionally signaling they are blurring a moral line at this moment, and they both know it. It's a very artful, cinematic... I'm just kidding. Tommy was so directed, he effed it up totally.
The Riffers joyously attack the movie on all fronts, picking apart all the questionable choices and oversights.
I ate the newspaper in the hallway.
Frankly, it's glorious. Though I will say I prefer Austin's own Master Pancake Theater's riff on the infamous "Hi Doggy" scene. Something along the lines of, yeah, put that shit on a gold disc and send it with Voyager. Truly mankind's greatest artistic achievement. Here's a fun detail about the room that you might not have noticed. In the end credits, at around 1 hour 38 minutes or so, you can see where somebody messed up the credit text and is trying to use a solid black color block to eliminate Rennie Johnson's associates. But the block doesn't scroll at the same rate as the rest of the credits. What a delightfully sub-YouTube ass level of editing. Moving on from the dour misery of the room, let's instead talk about a movie that's a sparkling celebration of excess. The Apple. Made in the 80s and set in the impossibly futuristic year of 1994, The Apple is a breathtakingly glitzy musical, and an absolutely perfect target for RiffTrax. It's a ridiculous blend of Paradise Lost, a metric ton of sequins, and, surprisingly, the whimsical totalitarianism of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Yes, The Apple features a full-on dance-ocracy, led by the devil himself in the guise of an unscrupulous president of a record company. This record company is called Boogaloo International Music, or BIM.
So is BIM here now?
Have you been paying attention at all?
Now, if you're not great at allegories, you might be surprised to find out that BIM is only 2 letters away from sin. The biblical kind, not the giant fish monster from Final Fantasy X. In all seriousness, The Apple quite possibly holds the record for the least subtle allegory ever. A couple from Moose Jaw, which is apparently a real city in Canada, is seduced by the aforementioned demonic president of BIM. BB signs with him, Alfie does not. Amusingly paralleling this, the actress that played BB went on to have many more successful years of acting. Alfie's actor, however, did not. Anyhow, one can't meaningfully talk about The Apple without talking about the songs. I'm not gonna lie, I genuinely think some of these are earworms.
Oh, Alfie, wish that I were dead. I'd rather die than know that I hurt you.
Even if some of them are just about the most extra thing ever put to film.
I need speed.
Oh, this comes out of nowhere. Spoken up earlier, I might have been able to help you.
The ultimate 80s fever dream. Adding to the confusion is that according to IMDb trivia, the movie used to begin with a creation myth-style song setting everything up. So believe it or not, there's a universe out there where The Apple was even less subtle. But it goes without saying, the riffs are top-notch.
And who of us hasn't done the walk of shame, right?
Oh, man. Oh, boy.
Yeah, the bed hair.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday's t-shirts.
Yep. Snatched from a chair, yeah.
Hold up over your mouth as you demand an entire glazed ham.
Blasting. Wait, what?
And a chafing dish of roast potatoes and green beans.
Kevin?
Several of those thermal microwavable containers of clam chowder and chili stuffed down your pants.
Kevin, did you do the walk of shame, or did you rob the deli counter at a grocery store?
There's only shame if you get caught, my friends. Stolen ham?
No thanks.
If you're into this kind of thing, I would strongly recommend checking out 1974's Phantom of the Paradise. There's no RiffTrax for it, yet, but it's a wonderfully campy watch that hits more than a few notes that The Apple failed to. But let's turn our attention from the distant past and embrace our deeply cursed bad movie present. It's important to note that the RiffTrax crew are still very much active, riffing many shorts and full movies alike, expanding their already considerable body of work. And they certainly haven't taken the easy path recently in choosing what they riff. For example, what they released in April of 2024, a riff of The Amazing Bulk. Now, if you're big into capital B bad movie discourse, you might have been introduced to this one from I Hate Everything's Search for the Worst series, or when it was featured on Red Letter Media's Best of the Worst. As both reviews note, it barely meets the definition of movie, but it does make for an excellent riff. Every frame of The Amazing Bulk is a shitpost. From the laughable MS Paint vehicles, zero-effort 3D renders, to the constant use of stock footage, it's quite visually distinct.
They made an entire movie out of the animations when you bowl a strike.
I would expect it was somewhat difficult to riff too, as the act of riffing seems to work best when making fun of the gap between a director's ambitions and what they achieved. Here, I think it's arguable the director accomplished what they were going for.
Guys, I don't want to cast aspersions here, but I'm starting to feel like the filmmakers aren't taking this very seriously.
Regardless of authorial intent, or perhaps the lack thereof, RiffTrax Mike, Kevin, and Bill prove that they are still at the top of their games.
Senator John Fetterman's here to pay his respects. Introducing the Palpatine gun. Guaranteed to be quite operational or your money back. Sorry I didn't spring for the apartment furnishing DLC.
They even bring in some classic MST3K references all these years later.
I liked it very much.
Almost as much as boot blacking.
I was thinking
like it very much.
Wow. Like to go for a swim.
Way back there.
Satellite of Love? Get the hell out of this movie right now!
What are you doing? Go!
I would argue their storied riffing history makes some of the riffs stratospherically funnier.
Movies were a mistake.
After hundreds upon hundreds of hours of the worst media possible, this is what got them to forsake the art of film itself. Even Rollergator didn't cause them to say that. To break things up, let's dig into some long-running jokes in the RiffTrax canon that I believe warrant some explanation. To wit, there's a very special catchphrase that shows up quite a bit in RiffTrax works. A catchphrase revolving around a certain buffet fast food chain prominent in the South and Midwest.
Hey, food!
Golden Corral's new slogan.
Do you want to die?
Golden Corral's new slogan.
Please, eat it.
Golden Corral's new slogan.
I myself visited the hallowed halls of a Golden Corral a few times as a child. I gotta say, I wasn't particularly impressed. Now this was before they implemented the chocolate wonderfall, but somehow I doubt that would have saved the experience. I probably wasn't alone in this opinion, because eventually the South Central Austin Golden Corral was replaced with something of infinitely more societal utility, a sizable apartment complex.
I will remember you.
So important to RiffTrax is the continued needling of Golden Corral that they made the creation of a video of them visiting it an incentive in their 2023 Kickstarter. Fortunately for all of us, not only did the Kickstarter meet the reward tier requirement, they survived the trip to Golden Corral, if only barely.
Let's sum up, okay? My first point is probably...
For the record, Golden Corral does actually have a slogan. It's apparently the only one for everyone, which isn't the worst slogan I've ever heard, but it does read like something you'd see scrawled in blood on a wall in Dead Space. Next, I want to mention a short that asks a quintessentially Midwestern question, perhaps second only to how do we tactfully avoid visiting our relatives this winter? Namely, is corn grass?
Then is corn grass?
You know, I lie in bed at night wondering just that. Finally, I'll have an answer.
This is the question asked, but critically not answered, by the short At Your Fingertips Grasses. A very baffling short of little educational value. While I think there is something to be said for the merit of grass-based art, the short leaves many at a loss, particularly Bill.
Hey kid, could you help me out here? Is corn grass? Because it's killing me. It's really gnawing at Bill. Like, just gonna ignore me.
While this is an older riff that isn't commonly referenced in modern RiffTrax all that much, you can still see evidence of this gag on Twitter, the RiffTrax account still bearing the mark of the harvest. RiffTrax was never one to shy away from corny jokes. Another recurring RiffTrax bit is riffing on some guy named Nick Nolte.
This could very well be a young Nick Nolte here.
Yeah, I take care of the joint while the master's away. He don't let any booze in the house, so I end up drinking his aftershave.
Now, as somebody born in the late 80s, I have no idea who this is, but apparently he voiced the I Have Spoken guy from The Mandalorian. This is, also, the highest IMDb score production he's ever been associated with, so I get the feeling I'm not missing all that much. When RiffTrax references him, they paint him as some kind of cantankerous drunk raccoon man of sorts.
Oops, they accidentally built over Nick Nolte's place again.
Can a man get 10 months of shut-eye without his lean-to getting all concreted up?
If you understand the certain je ne sais quoi of Nick Nolte, I'd be very interested to hear about it in the comments because at present I don't really get it. Mike, Kevin, and Bill's fandom for Nick Nolte goes quite deep, with them collaborating with 2 other authors on a book featuring him as a private investigator, written like a relay race with each author picking up where the previous left off. It seems well regarded, so I'm sorely tempted to check it out, though I feel without understanding the surrounding Nick Nolte lore, I might not be able to fully appreciate it. That said, it's always a treat when they break out the voice, though I can't imagine it's pleasant on the esophagus.
The Young Nick Nolte Chronicles.
I lost half a hard-boiled egg here last night. I'm youthful, but my voice already sounds like this.
While Mike, Kevin, and Bill are of course responsible for the vast majority of the RiffTrax catalog, there are others who have contributed quite a bit. Bridget and Mary Jo specifically have amassed quite the library of quality riffs, both shorts and full movies. Theirs is a wonderfully fresh perspective. For example, their riff of Lady Mobster, an inspirational story of a girl mob boss navigating the world of organized crime.
Now we get down to the business at hand.
Would I look good with bangs?
Their observational humor and delivery are superb.
That's a lot of cash.
Hey, guy in back, when are you going to eat that imaginary hoagie?
Trying to do?
Honestly, by the standards of RiffTrax movies, Lady Mobster is actually pretty watchable. As ever, though, the riff elevates it.
Oh, maybe you've heard of the federal racketeering statutes. All such profits and property gained direct.
Of Bridget and Mary Jo's works, I would also strongly recommend the Marriage is a Partnership short. I generally don't like the ancient black and white stuff, but they managed to knock it out of the park.
Suddenly, it was time for Pete to go to work.
And he never came back.
And sometimes those things can seem unimportant and
No, same to you, buddy.
On a more modern note, their riffing of Lifetime original-style movies is especially choice. Meet Baby of the Bride.
If I do see you, it'll probably cost me more money, so... Mary?
Is Mary the option she chose? I would have gone with Kill.
There's something very special in listening to these two tear into these schlocky romance movies.
Do we ever really know the people we're in love with?
Claritin can help.
There's also a riff where Bridget and Mike riff a movie called Charade. A movie so dry, a stiff breeze could break it clean in half. But while the movie is severely lacking in texture, Bridget and Mike are revealed to be quite the powerhouse husband and wife comedic duo.
You know, speaking of charade, do you think our marriage qualifies as one?
I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
Oh, neither do I. You don't? Well, if you had to hide it in this room, where would you put it?
Reg, stop succumbing to the charm. I hope charade is okay.
You know his name isn't Charade, right?
Oh, right, she's charade.
Have you ever seen a movie?
They should definitely co-host more riffs together. But RiffTrax isn't just MST3K alumni. There's also BritTrax, hosted by Brits Matthew J. Elliott and Ian Potter. Though they haven't been as prolific as the other groupings, they have a good figgies pudding worth of riffs on the site. One of their notable works is Hangar 18, an 80s attempt at a conspiracy thriller. Emphasis on the word attempt. About 3.5 things happen over the course of the movie, and none of them are particularly impressive.
Okay, the bad news is you're landing on one screen and you're in mid-air on the other.
But it makes for a delightful canvas for their riffing.
I could have been us, you know. But we did better at the audition.
It's worth noting that while they themselves were not part of MST3K, they too know how to play the classics.
Watch out for snakes! Damn this elusive mountain! It's the Robert Denby of mountains! Now is it really fair to shoot them into space just because the bosses don't like them?
Overall, definitely worthy contributors to RiffTrax, and I get a kick out of British people attempting a Texan accent.
Don't you worry, little lady, you're gonna get the best medical treatment Texas can buy. Just as soon as we replace that mechanical bull with an operating table and sober up Dr. Cletus.
There's also Connor and Sean. Don't miss their riff of Kid's Guide to the Internet. It's a Hypnospace Outlaw-ass instructional video that you might have seen in a YTP or two.
You're going surfing on the internet.
Unless someone needs to use the phone.
As a millennial, these riffs feel especially on point.
Ooh, I want to virtually fake the moon landing.
After I play this ignoring concerns about the Challenger's O-Rings Flash game.
Honestly, I'm sad they don't have more riffs in total. They've definitely got the aptitude for it.
Frogbones.com eventually pivoted and became Facebook.
A variety of other people have guested on riffs as well. Some of them are comedy royalty, others comedy pariahs. As one of the few remaining Something Awful residents, I can confidently say it might be a good idea to make the low-tax Troll 2 riff lost media. But this is an extreme outlier. The RiffTrax catalog is solid. You can't help but trip over quality if you do even a little bit of digging. There's even some useful riff collections on the site. For example, an entire playlist of coilies. God help us all. Now, this being partially a gaming video essay channel and all, I absolutely have to talk about RiffTrax the game. Going by its Steam review count, it's been criminally overlooked, which is a shame because it's secretly the greatest Jackbox-like game ever made. When I added it to the list of team-building games we play at work, it became an instant hit. In its primary mode, you're presented with a brief scene to riff, with it noted where your riff goes. After everyone comes up with a riff, a text-to-speech voice reads them out.
Humans.
Witness the birth of the first VTuber.
When people don't just chain a bunch of sound effects together.
Bruh.
The clips are all from various RiffTrax movies and shorts, many that have even been talked about in this video. But this is just the beginning of what this game has to offer. You see, the game is exceptionally customizable. Specifically, you can use your own clips.
People who sing like that should be drug out into the street and shot.
Garfield, no, they're just Christmas carolers.
It's pretty straightforward to create a clip and subtitle file in DaVinci Resolve and throw them into the right folders for the game to pick up. The possibilities truly are endless.
Garbage day! Huh? No!
Some people take sorting recycling way too seriously.
You can even use custom sound effects, too.
No more damn books. No more books.
Except for Mist, of course.
It takes some investment to set up, but it's definitely worth it if you have a group to play with. Would strongly recommend it, even without custom clips, though. All told, RiffTrax is wonderful. After so many years of work, I think a solid argument can be made that it surpasses classic MST3K at its height. On that note, it's quite interesting the different directions RiffTrax and MST3K have gone over the years. While RiffTrax lacks the host segments and framing device of MST3K, I would argue that cutting those aspects led to them being considerably more nimble and cost-effective. This allowed RiffTrax to build up their tremendous library of quality riffs. In comparison, it was arguably only in the most recent season that modern MST3K started to find its footing. Now, I'm not saying MST3K necessarily needs to become RiffTrax to survive, but there are some undeniable lessons there. How much are those host segments really worth? Anyhow, I realize that the RiffTrax works I've selected in this video might not be what others considered the RiffTrax core canon. I'd be very curious what works you think are part of the canon that I missed. So feel free to leave a comment below if you haven't already. If there's enough interest, I might even do a follow-up going over all the titles y'all mention. With all that said, a genuine thank you for watching this whole video, and may we all enjoy many more RiffTrax works for years to come.